roughly 25 years. And so when I go there, I'm in the context of that place, and it's almost as though I never left. Now, I've been gone for 25 years, so you think it would be about 50-50, right? But there's something about the context that we live in that affects how we think about ourselves and what we pay attention to. I think there's another context that really matters to us enormously when we consider what we pay attention to and what we think about, and that is our self-definition. This self-definition is actually located in a certain self-referencing aspect of our psyche, is actually located in a certain part of our brain, which can be turned off with deep meditation and certain psychedelic drugs. Both of them have that salutary effect of leaving us away from the thinking of ourselves and referencing everything to me, as me. This is me. How does that affect me? It's all about me, etc. That repetition of that line of thinking has its place, and we were trained as children to develop that. It's all about me. You're given a name. You're told a lot about who you are. You're so cute. You're so stupid. Whatever one you got, but you took it in, and then you carry that with you, and you reference the rest of events to that, and you see the world pretty much limited by that. The expansion of other worlds of experience that we have available to us is limited by this self-definition and by this particular activity that happens in a particular part of the brain. And so when we do prayer and meditation, we have a possibility of opening up to another dimension of ourselves. Just before I left here, I was here with Richard from Phoenix, Richard Mirage. And I was going to do the meditation. And I'm not sure what it was that caused this to happen. It wasn't drug-induced, and it wasn't even meditation-induced. It was in that moment I realized the light aspect of my body, the sparkling aspects of the nature of the energy, which is generally, I think of as actually kind of like flesh and blood and essentially moving mud, is normally the way I feel about this unit here. But in that moment, before I got up to do the meditation, I felt or sensed this other way of experiencing this. Now, if you amplify that, you could imagine that if you were tuned into that level of experiencing and level of identification, you might see the whole world as light, as energy, as scintillating color and potential experience. But we are conditioned to ratchet down all that we see into something that fits within our self-definition. And so the great quest of spiritual awakening is really the great quest of changing your identity. It's not so much that you have to change who you are, it's who you must identify with as who you are. Because this great being of light and energy and presence is always already here now as you. But the self-definition brackets so tightly what we can experience that we see ourselves as mostly as personality. Being mostly personality, we're affected enormously by what somebody might say about us, or what they might think about us, or whether we're alone or with a crowd, or whether we're going up financially or down financially, or whether we just feel good or bad that day. And we think, because this is what we have identified as most of what we have thought of ourselves is the I that has a name, and that name that has a personality, and that personality is a conglomeration of all the experiences leading up to that point at the personality level We are so focused on that level, we fail to see the magic that's happening around us. We only can see what the personality is tuned to. So now when Charles Fillmore said prayer, and by that he meant prayer and meditation, is the highest activity of mind, what he is saying is that in the moments that you drop deeply into prayer and or meditation, you begin to transcend this particular construct of who we are. And when we break through that construct into a different dimension, then we are afforded different possibilities because we live in that dimension and not just this one. So to Charles Fillmore, anything could be accomplished through prayer and meditation. Anything you could imagine could be possible. But I believe the reason we don't see consistent results to our prayer and meditation is because we approach prayer and meditation from the level of the personality. And the personality is not connected to the infinite world of possibility. The personality is connected to the past. Who you are, how you define yourself at the personality level is almost exclusively from what's happened to you or what you've done. It's all past. It's not the world of expansive understanding, of tremendous energy. It's not in the world of miracle or divine awakening. It's in the past. What happened to you at childhood? What happened to you with your spouse? What happened to you when you were in kindergarten? What happened to you yesterday? What's happening on the news? At that level, we are all connected to the past. But there is more to us than meets the eye, certainly than meets the eye of the personality. And so, if we wish to live in an expanded state, we have to somehow work against this habit of being our personality. Now, how do you do that? Let's start with using the personality as a method of getting there. First of all, most of the personality conversation is about I like it, I don't like it. I like it, I don't like it. Right? So one of my big heroes is Byron Katie. Byron Katie is a woman who was very, very depressed, who one day woke up and went, you know, I think this depression is all up to me. It's all about me. It's all a bit about me. It's about what I want and don't want. And maybe I could look at the world differently. So she came up with this idea of questioning your thoughts. Now that's a brilliant idea, to question your own thoughts, because, you know, I like it, I don't like it. Well, it's like, is that true that it should be different? You know, we're unhappy when the world doesn't line up the way we wanted it to or thought it should. We are disappointed in others when they don't do what we think they should do or what we want them to do. But her thing is, maybe it's not the world that needs to change. Maybe what really needs to change is you. So you have this question, is like, I don't like this. And her question is, how do you know it shouldn't be that way? It's really simple. How about if it's not all judged from your personality level? How would you be if you didn't come at everything from your personality level? How would that be? So I don't like it. It's like, it shouldn't be that way. And her question is that true? Now, most of us are sophisticated enough to know that we don't know everything. But the first round, we might go, yeah, I'm sure of that. But on deeper reflection, we could easily see that maybe it is that way, that we don't really know, and maybe it could be that way. Now, that's a break from the standard way of using the personality to judge everything. You begin to doubt that your judgment your thought process as a personality is the correct and only one. It could be that it really should be that way, and you just don't know it, right? My children shouldn't yell at me. Is that true? Well, at some level, it's absolutely true they shouldn't yell at you, but on another level, maybe you don't know, right? I don't know. And then the question goes to the next question. If you can get the gap where you can stop completely identifying with your past and your training of being you and look at it differently, then you can say, I don't know if that's true. And the next thing would fall out, question is, well, what happens when you think that thought? It shouldn't be this way. And inevitably, almost for every one of us, it is, I become more stressed, I become unhappy, I become angry, and generally those are negative things to most people, and they don't like the way it feels. And so, okay, so that's great. And so what would it be like if you thought differently? If you didn't think they shouldn't do what they're doing, what would your reaction be? And her invitation is to think what it would be like to not think the way you think, to not be the personality you have been. How would that be? And in that moment, you could go, well, I would be happy. I wouldn't care. If I didn't think that thought, they could be yelling and it wouldn't upset me. Now we have slipped beyond the bounds of our old conditioning, and we're beginning to leave the personality-based identity over there and move to an open-mindedness about what is possible. So if you have that, let's say you have somebody in your life, we can do it right now, who's doing something you don't like. Anybody not have somebody like that? Something. And just ask your question, is it true they shouldn't be doing that? Now, if you're God, you could answer that. But if you're just a mortal, then your answer is, I don't know. Is that true? At least you could say, I'm not sure. I think it should be this way. Now, how many of us in this room are so bloody smart we never doubt ourselves? We believe our thoughts because, and by that we have become completely sure of ourselves in this world. Anybody? There must be a gap in here, and through that gap you press the question, is that true? And you move to the answer, I don't know. Now the next question is, how do you feel when you have that thought? Now we're getting into the state of freedom, and in that question, so ask yourself, if you, this person that shouldn't be the way they are, yet how would it be if you didn't have that thought, if you didn't think that, or they weren't doing what they're doing? Then there's an opening, right? There's another opening. Well, because you're becoming self-aware that this thought process I have, this personality, this thought process of how I process information, if I did it differently, I would have a different experience. And so in that, there begins to be the breaking down of this rigidity. And then ask the third question of yourself. You ask the question, who would I be without that thought? Well, I'd be happy. Because I'm basically happy. I'd be happy if I didn't have that thought. Right? What a relief. Your personality is just practice way of thinking. It's conditioned, it's stuck, it's not that wonderful. Some of you are cuter with it, some of you are more boorish with it, some of you are more facile and some are less, but it's just your personality. That's all it is. We have been told our whole lives, we are more than that. But we must get beyond it. And so here's a way to use the personality to get beyond it. And then it becomes we can also use the techniques of meditation and prayer to go deeper still. So we do meditation and prayer to bring the chatter of the mind to a quieter place. Now, the idea is that when we're working at, let's say, the beta level of mind vibration, the beta waves of the mind, when we're working at that level, I think we tend to think the same thoughts over and over. And when you move down to the alpha level, as you quiet down in the alpha level, then you begin to have a more expanded way of thinking. And it begins to be less rigid, less repetitive, more open-ended. And if you move into the theta level, then you're really at the level of perception that's not actually sense-oriented so much. So you know, most of our senses, the 5 that we talk about, the 5 of our senses are all pointed outward. They're pointed outward and they're gathering information so that it can keep this unit alive. That's its purpose, is to give you information so that you can handle the world in a physical way. But there are other aspects of us that can be reached when we don't rely solely on the senses for our intake of information and knowing. And that comes by going deeper into this awareness that we are and holding ourselves in that state long enough, deep enough, that we begin to feel the spread out awareness that is not confined to this thing and is not receiving information from the senses alone. We begin to expand our connectedness to the great mind, to the one presence that is all about us. And this is the reason we spend time in prayer and meditation, is to come to a deeper place. Now, when we get to this deeper place and we align all of ourselves, both our thoughts and our emotions and our body and all the aspects of ourselves with one thought for a while, that's when the magic of manifestation happens. It's why the Fillmores and Abraham Hicks and everybody else says, get yourself, your thoughts aligned with where you want to be, and the world will respond to you. Because once this unit, it ceases to be just a personality, just a thin layer of itself, and becomes the whole of who you are, the body, the mind, and the spirit all lining up in the same direction, then a thought, which is not so much a thought anymore, but more of a, well, we'll call it a thought, but we just don't have the right word for it. It's a deeper thought. This deeper thought emerges and it begins to ripple out through all the layers of creation and not just this mental bandwidth. And you begin to have results in your prayer and meditation that are kind of magical. Things show up for you. People respond to you and offer you things that you wouldn't have expected, and you live kind of in this serendipitous lifestyle. From coming to the depth of who you are, you begin to tap into your potential as a human being. Our fear, I think, as Marianne Williamson has written, is not that we are powerless, but that we are powerful beyond measure. This is how you become powerful beyond measure, is you recognize what is actually happening through you already. So right at the moment, most of our thoughts are a bit chaotic, going places and places. Our emotions are one way, our intentions are another way, our body might be going another way, and we don't have this integration of who we are as a human being that gives us a more consistent outcome. So if we can bring all these parts in alignment with our one thought, one intention, then we begin to be powerful beyond measure because we're tapping into the great mind, the physical world, and the realm of thought. And all that is possible if we will go deep enough, go beyond our personality. I think because our personality is such a predominant piece, it's very hard for many of us to go beyond it into this deeper place. And so managing our personality through these 4 questions that Byron Katie gave us, is it true? Or in many of our cases we have to be asked twice, is it really true? How do you feel when you think that thought, and who would you be without that thought? 4 simple questions that lead us away from the personality, that prepare us for a deepening inside ourselves through the quieting of the mind to come to these deeper levels of awareness that are not ruled by the senses, that bring us down to the place where we're connected with more of our totality than just our personality. And from that place, we have the potential to influence the world around us and to see the depth of our own being. And in that depth, there is a certain grace and awareness that is shiny and amazing. This, I think, is the great quest. The great quest of humanity doesn't know it. Most of us have thought it's all about getting our stuff together. There was another word I meant to say. Getting our stuff together. That can take your whole lifetime because it keeps falling apart. And one year you think you should have more stuff, and the next year you think you could go simple. The stuff keeps ruling our thoughts if we let our minds rest at that level only. And that's more the personality level. We want ultimately to drop into an awareness of the divine, which is us, and to live more from there than from just the stuff level. Once we get our stuff together at the personality level, I think it's easier. And most of what it means getting your stuff together at the personality level is letting go of your fixed way of seeing the world. So, in a moment we'll do some meditation, but think of it. You are not just your personality. You have one. It has a history. It has preferences. It's important in getting along and getting your stuff together, but it is not everything. There is more to us than that. And the more to us is accessed by going deeper into who you are rather than just dealing with the surface level. But we may have to deal with the surface level to give ourselves the freedom to go deeper. And so it can be a both and situation of working with the personality and also working with the depths of who you are so that one does not dominate the other. So let us pray. Start by feeling your being as it is at this moment. It is good to know how you feel. So that's how you feel. Now feel your breath. And love your breath as it comes and goes. How does that affect how you feel? Feel the breath and love it as it comes and goes. And as you love your breath coming and going, ask yourself to go deeper. More deeply into who you are. And keep the mind still as you go deeper. Continue to love your breath as it comes and goes. If you feel the shift happening, perhaps you can continue this practice, as Kevin said, with regularity. Certainly at the World Day of Prayer, there'll be an atmosphere that is inviting you to go deeper. Love your breath as it comes and goes. And let your mind come to a place where it can love life as it comes and goes. As it could love having a personality and not being a personality. You can love people doing what you want and love people not doing what you want. You can love being rich and it can love being poor. It can love like God and not like a personality. In a moment we'll stop this formal paying attention to the breath and loving it as it comes and goes. But we can keep it up with our eyes open. And so it is. Amen. So one thing we have is part of the World Day of Prayer is the prayer intention cards. And if you'll fill those out, one of the great things that will happen that others will do for you is they will take your card and they will pray for your desire. And they pick them up as they come in and then they pray for them and then they'll put them back in the basket and someone else will pick it up and pray for them. That's pretty sweet. And you'll do the same when you're here. Don't forget to sign up. We start an opening ceremony on Wednesday night. That Wednesday night starts at 7 and it ends at 8, and then we have the silence from there for 24 hours. So please come to that. But be sure you sign up for a time. It's great to be here in the middle of the night. But if you can't make the middle of the night, sign up for some other time, and I think you'll enjoy that as well. And also, the youth are doing a fundraiser. They're selling bracelets and other jewelry as well as food in the other room. Make sure you get over there and get a cup of coffee and spread your cash around. So.